Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. Today I bring you What If Deku Was the Sentry, a story in which Izuku Midoriya was interrupted before he met All Might, and given a serum that gives him the power of 1,000,000 exploding suns. The story is called Izuku Midoriya, the Sentry. The story is created by FanFiction author Crossoverist. The link to both the story and the author will be in the description down below. If you guys want more what if videos such as these, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more.
Not all men are created equal. That's the sad truth of the world we live in. Some would argue that this had always been the case, but it was made undeniable by the birth of quirks. It all started 200 years ago. A baby was born in China that glowed. Following that, reports of superpowers around the world popped up. Soon, the supernatural became the natural, and with it, an era of chaos ensued. But from that chaos arose the era of heroes, people whose job it was to protect civilians from villains. Now, 80% of the world possesses a quirk, with the remaining 20% being seen as an anomaly. Those without quirks were incapable of matching those with quirks, simply due to the fact that society didn't allow them to be regarded as better. A fact I learned at the age of 4. "Sorry, kid, not gonna happen," the doctor told the green-haired boy and his mother. At the age of 4, a person's quirk typically manifested, but not for Izuku Midoriya. All any child his age wanted was to be a hero. Ever since he'd seen the debut footage of All Might, the #1 hero in Japan, he wanted to save people with a smile on his face just like him. His best friend, Katsuki Bakugo, Kaken, had developed his quirk, the ability to shoot explosions from his palms, and all Izuku wanted was to have a cool quirk like him. But that dream was crushed by that visit to the doctor's office. It was crushed that night, when his mother didn't believe in him. "Mom, can I still be a hero?" Izuku pleaded with his mother with tears in his eyes while pointing at the All Might video. He needed her to tell him that he could still be a hero, even without a quirk. But her response wasn't what he needed. "I'm sorry, Izuku." She rushed to his side and held him, crying all the while. Since then, his life had been literal hell. Ever since discovering that he was quirkless, his classmates treated him as an object, something to practice their quirks on and ignore when not needed. The worst of this went to Kaken, who quickly went from his best friend to his worst tormentor. The blonde made it his mission to ensure that Izuku's life was as bad as it could be. But Izuku held his tongue, for speaking up about the bullying would tarnish Kaken's reputation, and he couldn't be a hero with a record. The teachers weren't helpful either, because they ignored it or didn't see it. This happened for years, until that fateful day in middle school changed him forever. "Alright, settle down class. You need to fill out your career application forms. Who am I kidding? You're all planning on becoming heroes, right?" At this, everyone began cheering and showing off their quirks, until a snarky voice spoke up. "Hey, teach, don't lump me in with the rest of these side characters." Sitting with his feet on the desk, Kaken spoke up amongst the crowd. "That's right, you're applying to UA, aren't you?" his teacher asked. "UA? Damn right I am. I even aced the mock test." Bakugo sneered, standing up on his desk. As the class began muttering amongst themselves over this development, the teacher decided to share Izuku's choice as well. "Hey, Midoriya, aren't you applying there as well?" The class burst out laughing, finding the idea of a quirkless loser attending UA hilarious. All except Katsuki. Once the bell rang, Izuku quickly went to the door, but he was stopped by Katsuki and his lackeys. "We aren't through here, Deku." Deku was another way to read Izuku's name, which meant useless. What would happen to Izuku now that Katsuki was mad? Well, that would be covered later. Alarms were blaring all around him as he ran. In his coat pocket was a vial containing a golden liquid. This liquid was the result of 5 years of study, as an alternative to quirks manufactured superpowers, like in the comics of old. But this was made under the command of a very dangerous villain, overseen by a very evil doctor. This scientist, a man who had amnesia and forgot everything except his scientific knowledge, was one of the people who developed this liquid, which contained the power of 1,000,000 exploding suns, theoretically. The man made his way outside before using the quirk he possessed. Whether this was his original quirk or not, he didn't know. But this quirk was called Jump Warp, and it allowed him to defy space by jumping. Using it, he essentially teleported to a different part of Japan. Izuku was walking home from school after a horrible day. Bakugo had destroyed his hero analysis notebook and told him that it would be better for him to jump off the roof and pay for a quirk in his next life. Worst of all, Izuku was too scared to do anything about it, so he was walking with his head down. Just as he was approaching a dark tunnel, a figure appeared before him. Not having time to react, the person fell on him. Oof! Izuku cried. Hey, are you okay? Gah! Izuku stared at the figure in terror, for the person was wearing a lab coat stained with blood. And his breathing was labored. Please, he said, grabbing a golden vial from his coat pocket, protect this serum. He put it in Izuku's hand before struggling to get up. Izuku stared at him, wide-eyed. Wait, sir. Let me call a hospital. Izuku started getting up, but before he could grab the man, he spoke. No, it's too late for me. Just keep the vial safe from Dash. Before he could finish, the two of them heard a noise. Turning behind them, they saw a person made completely out of sludge. And it noticed them, too. Just my luck. A meat suit to hide in. He immediately lunged for the scientist, who pushed Izuku back. As he was getting engulfed in the sludge, he shouted out, "Run! Hurry!" And run Izuku did. All the way back to his house, though he felt like a coward later. Izuku ran all the way back to his house. When he got there, he just stood in his doorway, his heart racing, trying to calm down. Izuku, honey, is that you? A voice from the kitchen startled him out of his thoughts. Looking to the kitchen, he responded. Yeah, Mom, it's me. A smaller, plump green-haired woman walked into the living room. This was Izuku Midoriya, the mother of Izuku Midoriya. She looked at him in a concerned manner. Are you okay, dear? You look like you just ran a marathon. I'm fine, Mom. I just, saw a villain attack on my way home from school. He decided to omit the fact that he was almost the victim. He wasn't ready to face all that happened yet. Gasp, did you get hurt? Inko was hysterical upon learning that her son witnessed something so horrible. Why yeah, I'm fine. Just a little rattled. I'm gonna go lie down for a bit, actually, he told her. Oh, okay, dear. With a smile, Inko turned and walked back to the kitchen. I'll call you later when dinner's ready. Once he got to his room, Izuku took out the golden vial that he'd put in his pocket. So, what the heck was all that about? No, more importantly, why didn't I do anything? That man was hurt and then attacked by a villain, and all I did was run away. How can I call myself a hero after that? Maybe Kaken was right after all. His thoughts darkening, Izuku stared at the vial. The scientist-looking man had asked him to protect it, but he had no idea what it was or who was after it. His immediate guess was that it was a new drug and that some addicts had attacked the scientist. It made sense, after all. Though, it would have probably been easier to just destroy the vial, but who knew? In any case, Izuku Midoriya was distraught and caught up in self-hatred. Kaken's earlier words telling him to jump off the roof came back to them, and he found himself agreeing with his friend. If I've already proven myself unworthy as a hero, I've really got nothing else left, huh? Izuku uncapped the vial. Might as well go out with a bang. Thinking that he had nothing left to live for, he drank the golden liquid. He expected to pass out or at least get high, whatever that entailed, but he didn't feel any different. Ha! Thought that would be a lot more drastic. Ah well. Izuku. Dinner's ready, sweetie. Hearing his mom, he put the vial down on his desk and walked to the kitchen. As it turned out, his mom had made his favorite meal, katsudon. Ordinarily he would have been delighted, but now he was too depressed. So, how was school? It was fine, nothing too special. Izuku then thought about his life up to that point. For 10 years, everyone had mocked and ridiculed him for wanting to be a hero. Even his mother didn't believe in him that night. But she'd been a bit more supportive since. Maybe if she believed in him, he'd at least have someone to live for. "Hey, Mom," Izuku began. His mother looked at him, but before he could continue, his chest started burning. HRK. He clutched his chest, grunting in pain. "Izuku." Izuku got up from the table. "I'm fine," he grunted, though his sweating face told a different story. "Just some heartburn. I'm gonna go get some medicine at the nearby store." He walked toward the door, quickly putting on his shoes and racing out into the night. Before he could make it across the street, however, he felt it. Something inside him was bubbling, demanding its release. Izuku had no idea what it was, but it felt like he would explode, and he didn't want to be around people when he did. Luckily, he knew of a beach that was so polluted with trash that no one came there, so he rushed over there, his body heating up steadily. It took all of Izuku's willpower to keep the heat inside, and he just barely made it to Dagoba Municipal Beach Park. With nothing else to focus on, Izuku couldn't keep the heat inside. And it expanded throughout his entire body, burning him alive. Arrgh! Bang! If anyone were nearby, they'd have seen a supernova go off in the park. Slowly, Izuku groggily opened his eyes. He was looking at a black sky, and he was laying down on a cold surface. Is this the afterlife? He figured that he'd died in the explosion and passed on. Ah, good. You're awake. A cheery voice interrupted his thoughts. Looking up, he had to shield his eyes before the sun? No, that couldn't be right. Whatever it was just talked to him, and it sounded like a man. His eyes adjusting while still behind his hand, Izuku could make out more of this person's features. What he thought was the sun was instead a man with an immense aura that rivaled his accent. The man sounded American, and Izuku could make out long blonde hair and Caucasian skin, though not much more than that. Before he could even process this man's overwhelming presence, the aura disappeared. Whoops. Ha, sorry about that. The man laughed, hands on his hips and a wide smile on his face, similar to All Might. Who are you? Where are we? Izuku asked the man, whose smile never wavered. Well, I was hoping you could tell me that. After all, I'm you. As for where we are, why, we're in our mind, of course. Ha! Izuku had a blank expression on his face. He's never been this confused before in his life. What? How are you me? Well, to be more precise, I'm the power you drank merged with your heroic aspirations. Since I was just born, I was hoping you could name me, although I kind of like the Sentry as a superhero name. Hold on. Slow down a minute. You're saying that I have power? Izuku asked, wanting nothing more than a quirk of his own. Well, didn't you drink the golden super serum? Izuku thought back to the golden liquid he thought was a drug, and paled at the thought of what he'd done. You mean that liquid was a quirk? Technically speaking, the serum couldn't be a quirk because quirks are genetic, but I think you're more or less correct, the Sentry said. Oh crap. I drank something that wasn't mine. If that scientist is still alive, he'll probably have to start all over. Izuku froze. Remembering how he left the man to, the Sentry interrupted him before he could blame himself anymore. Young Izuku. Izuku looked up, startled. It's true that what you did was wrong, that much is undeniable. But what's done is done, and you cannot change that. Instead of looking down to Hades, you should look up to see the way to heaven. In other words, seeing as you cannot get rid of me, you should instead ask yourself what we're going to do now. Izuku was awestruck. Taking a breath, his expression changed to one with more confidence. You're right, Sentry. All I can do now is use the most of what that scientist gave me, regardless of if he meant it. I left him to die due to my powerlessness. But I will not leave anyone else. I'll save them all with a smile on my face. No, we'll save them, with our smile. At this, he gave the Sentry his widest smile. The two of them just stood there, smiling for each other, until Izuku realized something. Hey, wait. You said we're inside my mind right now, right? That is correct, young Izuku. How do we get out? Oh. And the beach. Izuku suddenly remembered the beach he exploded at. Not to worry. No one was harmed at that beach, for your intuition was correct, it was empty. Also, I can easily get us back home if you let me take control for a bit. You'll wake up on your bed in the morning. Oh, okay. As soon as Izuku gave Sentry permission, he passed out. Izuku, wake up dear. Aga. Izuku woke up to the sun assaulting his vision. Looking around, he was in his room. The Sentry seemed to be telling the truth last night. Getting up, young Izuku got ready for school, before noticing something on his desk. Hero analysis for the future. Didn't Kaken destroy it yesterday? Don't tell me the Sentry was nice enough to rewrite it for me. Ha! Putting it in his backpack, Izuku left for school. That night, Izuku was able to enter back into his mindscape via meditation. Awakening back in the black void, his senses immediately gravitated to the stellar man in front of him. Young Izuku. Welcome back. The Sentry greeted his host personality cheerfully. Heya, Sentry. Izuku waved. So, I've been wondering about what you said, about using your powers to be a hero. Yes? What about them? Well, you said you were the golden liquid combined with my love for heroics, right? Indeed, I am. That explains why he looks similar to All Might. And how strong are you, exactly? I have the power of 1,000,000 exploding suns. Izuku sucked in a breath through his teeth, preparing himself. Okay, that's a lot. In that case, I want to fulfill my dream of getting into UA. I'm honestly a little scared of the power you possess, and it seems like you'd be possessing me rather than it being my own power, but I owe it to that scientist and all the people that we could help to try. Regardless of my actual involvement. So, let's get into UA. Izuku concluded his little speech with a smile. Well put, young Izuku. But there is a problem. You're right to be scared of my power, for it is great and highly destructive if not properly utilized. I have faith in my own self, but I can only manifest my persona if I believe I am needed. Since I was formed from your own perception of a hero, our ideals shouldn't differ greatly. However, because of this, I can only appear if someone needs help. I also cannot come out if you were to die. Even if you believe our achievements only come from me, I came from you. As such, I cannot exist without you, so you should train yourself to the best of your abilities. Ah! You're right. Even if I can't control your power, we're a part of one another. If I can't be as strong as you, then I'll settle for being as strong as I can possibly be. That's the spirit. I trust your intellect enough to concoct a training regiment? The Sentry asked. Yeah. Spurred on by the Sentry's motivation, Izuku made his own training regiment to get in shape by the time the UA entrance exams were held in 10 months. He worked on his body every day, being careful not to do it. To be the best he could be, he never transformed into the Sentry. He wasn't sure if they would influence each other or if the Sentry had a different body entirely, but he wanted to achieve his strength by his own merit. Of course, Izuku made sure to keep up his study habits for the written portion of the exam, though this wasn't as much of an issue. Midoriya was always one of the best students in his class. Finally, after 10 months, it was the night before the entrance exam, and Izuku had finished his final exercises. Pant, I did it! He smiled. At home, he checked himself out in the mirror, then looked at the day one photo he'd asked his mom to take of him before he began working out. You've grown so much, young Izuku. The Sentry appeared in the mirror beside him. They'd been able to communicate mentally for the past 10 months, the Sentry's support being detrimental to Izuku's dedication and perseverance. Thank you, Sentry. Even if you're a part of me, it was nice to hear someone encouraging my dream, for once. Especially coming from someone so powerful. Izuku trailed off, remembering an event from a few days into his training. Alright, day 4 complete. Congratulating himself, Izuku hopped on his computer to observe any tidbits about new heroes, until he came across a certain article. Dagoba Municipal Beach Park turned completely to glass due to an illegal solar quirk. Explosion seen from a mile away, police are still investigating the perpetrator. Izuku paled at what he read. The next day, Izuku stood at the gates to UA High. Well, this is it. As he walked forward, he heard a familiar angry voice. Out of the way, Deku. Izuku barely had time to turn his head before Bakugo pushed him aside. Do not fret, young Izuku. You have proven with your determination and dedication your right to be here. Yeah, you're right, Izuku muttered under his breath so no one would hear. Walked forward to the entrance, determined to claim his place in this school. Then he tripped on the sidewalk. No. This was the worst thing that could have happened to him, the universe telling him to give up. However, before he could hit the pavement, he suddenly stopped falling and just floated in place. Ha! Sorry, I stopped you with my quirk, a chirpy voice called out behind him. Regaining his footing on the ground, Izuku turned around and saw a shorter girl with brown hair and a round face with what looked like a permanent blush on her cheeks. It would be bad luck if you fell right before the entrance exam, right? She smiled at him. Ugh, HK. The bell rung before he could continue his incoherent speaking patterns. Oop, sorry, I'd better get going. See you inside. She waved him goodbye, while Izuku could only stare at her. I just talked to a girl. The sentry was silent. Alright, listeners. Everybody say, hey. The room remained silent. However, the pro-hero present Mike was not deterred by this. This is the part you've all been waiting for, the practical exam. He clicked a button on his remote, and 4 robot silhouettes popped up on screen. You score points on this test by destroying the exam robots, and each robot is worth 1, 2, or 3 points. Any questions? Immediately, someone's hand went up. Ye, little listener? The person in question was a blue-haired boy with glasses. On the printout sheet, there are only 3 robots, but your presentation says 4. If this is an error, then UA should be ashamed. He turned and pointed at Izuku. Additionally, you've been muttering non-stop. If this is a joke to you, then please leave. Oh, sorry. Izuku muttered. I like your style. Little listener. See, the 4th robot isn't actually worth an points, it's a 0-pointer. You're better off avoiding it. Thank you. The boy bowed, then sat back down. Standing at the entrance to his assigned battle center, Izuku noticed the girl from earlier doing some stretches. As he started walking over to her to thank her, he felt a hand on his shoulder. Turning, he saw the boy that had called him out in the auditorium. That girl is clearly trying to focus before the exam. What are you going to do, distract her? He looked at Midoriya sternly, causing him to flinch. No. I was just dash and begin. The gates opened without warning. What are you all waiting for? There are no countdowns here. Hearing that, everyone began running inside. Izuku ran all around the testing center looking for robots to destroy. Thanks to his training regiment, he was pretty sure he could bust them open, albeit he'd need to focus on 3-pointers to make up for lost time. Unfortunately, the other examinees were way ahead of him with their more destructive and practical quirks, and he could barely spot a robot before it was destroyed, and the sentry would only come out when someone needed saving, not when something was artificially attacking. Even worse, time was almost up. If this kept up, he'd fail. I have to get at least on Rumble. Looking up, the examinees saw a giant behemoth of a robot coming towards them. Everyone started running at the sight of this piece of metal taller than a building. And Izuku was no exception. At least, that was the plan. Help! Izuku spotted the girl from earlier while running away, except something was wrong. She was trapped under some of the fallen debris, and no one was helping her. Izuku ran up to her. Are you okay? He had to scream to be heard over the chaos. But I twisted my ankle, so I can't get this rubble off of me. Okay, you stay here. I'm gonna try and stop the 0-pointer. Walking in front of her, he closed his eyes and began glowing. Flashbang. Anyone who turned to look had to close their eyes at the bright light erupting near the Izuku was a blonde man with Caucasian skin and a golden outfit with a cape, though that's all anyone saw of him, for his back was turned away from them. Do not fear, young lady, for the sentry is here. Announcing his presence for all to see, the sentry raised his hand and began collecting energy. Just before the 0-pointer overtook him, he lightly flicked his hand forward. And the 0-pointer erupted in a spire of flames before exploding. This explosion was so intense that the surrounding buildings were destroyed and the other students were flung backwards. One might think that they'd get hurt from the debris, especially the young girl, but the sentry would not allow innocents to get hurt on his watch. Reacting faster than the shockwave of his own attack, the sentry quickly moved all the examinees outside the testing center. When everyone regained their bearings and saw him, he was holding the brown-haired girl in his arms. Are you okay, young ma'am? Slowly looking up, the girl nodded her head in shock. Good. Now then, can you make it home by yourself? I'd be more than happy to escort you if need be. The girl tenderly stepped on her foot, wincing before expressing some shock. Actually, my foot feels fine, I think I'm okay. She turned to the sentry and smiled. Thank you, though. No problem. The sentry, upon hearing the nurse mention that there was nothing further to do, ran back home. Izuku! It's here! Izuku Midoriya rushed to her son's room with an envelope in her hands. Startled, Izuku put his hands up in a futile attempt to stop her from crying, which obviously failed. Mom, I know this is an emotional moment, but we can't risk you damaging the letter. This caused her to stop and nod before handing him the letter. Izuku grabbed it, only for his mother to keep a strong grip on it. Before you open this, I just want to say, I'm really proud of you, Izuku. Said boy was shocked, to say the least. But he couldn't not see the letter, so he nodded, and she let go and stepped out of his room. Opening the envelope, the boy was surprised to see it was some sort of circular device with a blue center. Before he could question it, a hologram appeared above it. This hologram dot was of the number 1 hero, All Might. Greetings, young Midoriya. Ha? What is All Might doing at UA? Is he a teacher there? I guess that'd be the only reason he's recording this instead of the principal. Izuku got so caught up in thought that he almost completely zoned out, only to regain his senses when he heard All Might clear his throat. Anyway, it was a bit touch and go there for a while, huh? It looked like you wouldn't make the cut, until the 0-pointer came along. Huh? Midoriya was confused on how an enemy worth 0 points would be useful to him. You see, while there were the obvious villain points. What kind of hero school would we be if that were all? Izuku gasped. Yes, that's right, in addition to villain points, there were also rescue points. A scoreboard appeared next to All Might. Your rescue of young Uraraka netted you 60 hero points, more than enough to pass. He paused. In addition, the shockwave that destroyed the robot also destroyed 40 points worth of other robots nearby, netting you 100 points in total and the top score. He pointed out to Izuku. Congratulations, young Midoriya. This is your Hero Academia. Izuku took a moment to process what he'd just heard. Then, he started breaking down, just like his mother had. His room was quickly flooded with tears of joy. From the reflection of his computer, the sentry was watching him with a proud smile. A week later, Izuku was inside the hallowed halls of UA High School, looking for Class 1A. After a few minutes of searching, he found the door with his class number on it in big red letters. Opening the door, he was immediately greeted with the sight of the blue-haired boy from the entrance exam telling off Bakugo for putting his feet on the desk. Before Midoriya could curse his own bad luck, the boy noticed him. Greetings. I'm Tenya Ida, from Semi-Private Academy, and I must commend you for deducing the hidden portion of the exam. Ida stuck out his hand, and Midoriya shook it hesitantly. I'm Izuku Midoriya, And I didn't figure out any hidden part of the exam. I just saw someone in trouble. Ida nodded. I see. In that case, you surely deserve to go here. Suddenly, the two were interrupted. Hey, I know that hair. You're the golden man who saved me. Turning around, Izuku saw the girl that he saved during the entrance exam. Oh, hey, I'm. Izuku trailed off. The girl clapped her hands and smiled. I'm Ochako Uraraka. I hope we can be friends. If you're just here to make friends, I suggest you leave, a mysterious voice called out from nowhere, startling everyone in the class. The trio at the doorway looked around until they saw a yellow caterpillar at the teacher's desk, drinking a juice pouch. The caterpillar unzipped, revealing it to be a sleeping bag with a homeless man inside. Standing up, the man addressed the class. It took you 8 seconds to quiet down. That's not acceptable. I'm Shota Aizawa, your homeroom teacher. He held up a gym uniform. Put these on and meet me on the field. It took you all 8 minutes to change and get out here. You've a lot of room for improvement. Uraraka raised her hand. Sir, what about orientation? Aizawa just looked at her. At UA, we teachers have free rein on how we teach you all. That means we don't have to waste time on pointless ceremonies and can start training you from day one. He pulled out a small device. Today we'll be doing Quirk apprehension tests. Ha! Everyone in the class voiced their collective confusion. Long jump, 50-meter dash, softball throw, etc. These are all the things you've done in middle school, but this time you'll do it with your quirks. The government wants to maintain the illusion that people are equal. It's impractical, and you need to know the limits of your powers. He turned to Izuku. Midoriya, what was your softball record in middle school? I think around 63 to 65 meters, the boy answered. Try it again, this time with your quirk. The teacher threw Izuku a softball and pointed to a white mound. You can try anything so long as you don't leave the circle. As Izuku walked up to the mound, he reached out to the Sentry. Hey, Sentry? Do you think you should come out for this? I think not. If this is just a minor assessment, there is no reason for me to manifest. Yeah, I guess you're right. No need to go plus ultra for a first day activity. Reaching the mound, Izuku turned around to face Mr. Aizawa. Excuse me, Sensei? Yes? Well, I don't know if you read my file, but my quirk manifests as a separate persona, and while we can communicate mentally, we don't really see the need to go all out on the first day, so... Izuku trailed off, nervously. Aizawa just looked annoyed and turned to the crowd. I see. And do you all feel this way? Getting some nods from the group just pissed him off even more. What a completely irrational reason to not give it your all. You think just because this is a school setting you can just relax and half-ass it? Well, how about this? The person who scores the lowest out of the 20 of you will be expelled. His face adopted a sadistic grin. What? Everyone in the group started complaining about how unfair that was, only for Aizawa to cut them off. Villain attacks, natural disasters, any random thing can come up and screw over the peace that you're all taking for granted. This school is to ensure you're ready for that, so if you can't handle that you can leave. He turned back to Izuku. That's plus ultra, so I'd suggest you and your quirk come to an agreement fast. Izuku was silent, then very well, then. Flashbang. Everyone had to shield their eyes as light erupted around the green-haired boy. Looking back at him, he was replaced by a taller American man with golden hair, complete with his own gold and black costume with a blue cape and a white S around his torso. His hands were on his hips, and he was smiling at them all Might style. Picking up the ball, he turned. And away we go. He gave the ball a medium throw, but that medium throw was so strong that the recoil caused everyone barring the offender to fly several feet back. Mr. Aizawa was able to land on all fours, but the rest weren't so lucky. Stumbling back up, they all saw the Sentry looking at them. His smile never wavering. Wait for it. Whoosh. Turning, the students and teacher were barely able to identify the ball coming from behind them before the sentry caught it. He looked at the teacher. "Well. Around the world," the man muttered. TCH. Bakugo clenched his fists, too shocked to do anything else at such a display of power. Needless to say, the sentry scored first in all other events. For the vertical jump, he leapt to a point where humans would find it hard to breathe. For the 50-meter dash, he finished it in 0.01 seconds. He destroyed the weight machine for another event and had to be stopped for the lap runs and side-to-side jumps. The only event he scored second in, ironically, was the ball throw. That was won by Uraraka, whose quirk allowed her to float the ball, granting her a score of infinity. The other students were all shocked at such a display, not expecting anyone to beat the sentry. Afterwards, the scores were posted, and as expected, Midoriya won. Changing back to the teen, he was immediately congratulated by some of his classmates, only for them to be interrupted by someone screaming, "No! I'm in last place." A small boy with purple grapes for hair was crying on the floor, for he performed abysmally, except for the side-to-side jumps in which he scared right behind the sentry. "Oh, and I lied. No one's going home." Aizawa smiled. That was just a rational deception to bring out the best in you. Afterward, Aizawa called out to a certain someone hiding behind a building. "You can come out now, All Might." Eep. All Might shivered at being called out so suddenly, then shifted outward to appear confident. "Ahem. So, what did you really think of your students? I know that you expelled the entire class last year, so I doubt you were lying about the expulsion threat." The hobo man just scowled. "It's true that I would have expelled them if I thought they were incompetent, but none of them had zero potential." At that, his gaze sharpened and he focused on All Might. "But I doubt you were just concerned with my students? The truth is, I'm a bit hesitant about that Midoriya boy. More specifically, about his unique quirk." His quirk is Supernova, a sentient transformation quirk that can channel the energy of the sun. It's not something I've seen before, but wait, you don't think he has any relation to him, do you? I'm not sure, which is why I'm worried. Actually, I do have a good reason for this suspicion. See, I looked into his file after his impressive debut against the Zero-Pointer, and get this, he was quirkless until about a year ago. Well, that's unusual, but he could have just had a quirk awakening later in his life. Is there anything else? The thing is, his quirk isn't really similar to his parents. His mother has a low-level telekinetic quirk and his father can breathe fire. They have some relation, sure, but neither are a transformation-type quirk. We'll keep an eye on him, sure, but it's possible he's just a next-gen type with no relation to All for One. In any case, confronting him now would only result in disaster, especially with how powerful he is. All Might nodded. You're right about that. I'm not even sure I could beat him so easily. The next day rolled around, and Izuku was in a pretty good mood. After acing the apprehension test from the day before, although he's not conscious when Sentry is active, his classmates were all really friendly. This was something he'd never experienced before, popularity. Sure, he wasn't the best people pleaser. But that was most likely due to the constant isolation he faced and would surely change over time. Sitting down in Heroics 101, everyone waited patiently for their teacher to arrive, but Izuku was stoked. He's the only one we haven't seen yet. He has to be teaching the Heroics course, I'm sure of it. Suddenly crash. I am coming through the door, like a normal person. Indeed, Izuku was correct. Teaching this course was his personal favorite hero and the #1 hero in Japan, All Might. It's really him. Ahem, today, you'll be working on, he held up a card with the word combat on it. Combat training. A row of containers all appeared from the roof, each numbered. You all submitted design requests to the support course. Yes? They're all in here. Get your designated container and meet me at test site A. You all look so heroic. All Might complimented everyone's costumes before addressing his next topic. As I said, today you'll be doing battle training. You'll be split up into 2 pairs, one side heroes, the other villains, and the objective is for the heroes to capture the villains and their bomb while the villains need to prevent that from happening. Any questions? Immediately, several hands and voices rose up. Alright. One at a time. He got out a piece of paper. First, you need to capture the villains using special capture that will be distributed to the heroes later. The villains will have a map of the building in 5 minutes to prepare before the heroes arrive. You're allowed to hurt your opponents, but if it gets too serious, I'll intervene. He looked up. Now, then. Let's draw lots. Izuku, as it turned out, had been conveniently paired with Ochako. The girl's hero costume was rather appealing, as well. Hey, Deku. She greeted her partner with a smile. It's also worth noting that she and Ida had become friends with Izuku after school yesterday, where they all walked to the train station together and exchanged contact info. There was also a misunderstanding where Ochako thought his name was Deku, but when told the truth, she said it sounded like "you can do it," so Izuku decided to let her keep it. Her costume consisted of a skin-tight pink and black bodysuit with a translucent helmet. Oh, hey, you Uraraka. It's so nice to team up with you. If she weren't so nice, she'd probably have laughed in his awkward face. Thankfully, she was a total cinnamon bun who wouldn't do that. Oh, and Izuku's costume inspired by All Might, as in it's the same as the anime, partly because I couldn't think of anything different and partly because he's a massive All Might fan, even if he didn't meet him in this scenario yet. Alas, if only fate was so kind as to give them better opponents. Team A will be the villains, and Team D are the heroes. What was wrong with Team A? Well, Ida was on that team, so Izuku was conflicted about fighting a friend. And so was Kaken. Alright. So how do you want to play this? Uraraka was seeking Deku's advice as they stood outside waiting for the villain team to finish setting up. Well, we'd need to take into account Tita speed and attention Tathpar, meaning we'll define it like take this extremely seriously but Kaken is also really. Izuku was lost in thought, barely noticing Uraraka's weirded out face. Earth to Deku? She lightly tapped his shoulder, causing him to flinch back with a GAH. Oh, sorry. He rubbed the back of his head. I zone out sometimes when doing analysis. Wow, you're really into it, huh? Actually, I'm mainly nervous about fighting Kaken. I've known him since we were kids. Izuku looked down. Sorry for dragging you into our fight. Oh, that's okay. So, it's like a fated battle between rivals, huh? That's pretty epic, you know. Izuku was a bit awestruck, not expecting her to be so supportive. Before he could voice his gratitude, however, he was interrupted. And begin. The duo raced into the building, which immediately delved into many pathways and hallways, meaning that there'd be no easy way to find the bomb. The two continued forward together, before Izuku stopped at a crossroads, having a bad feeling. An explosion went off, blinding the duo. Fortunately, Izuku had reacted in time and avoided it. Unfortunately, when the smoke cleared, there stood Kaken, fury sprawled all over his expression. Katsuki and Tenya were waiting in front of their bomb. For the training exercise, they were put on the villain team against Ochako and Midoriya. They'd been given 5 minutes to prep. Ordinarily, the team would use this time to strategize, and to his credit, Ida was. But young Katsuki was more focused on something that had been gnawing away at him for well over a while now. We're all very proud that the both of you got into UA. This is a huge achievement. The middle school principal congratulated Midoriya and Bakugo, who'd both been called into his office after the results from the UA high entrance exams had been announced. Oh, thank you, sir, Midoriya stuttered, but Bakugo remained silent while entertaining a scowl on his face. Slam. Deku. How do you do it, you quirkless bastard? You must have cheated, somehow. There's no way in hell you'd beat me. Bakugo demanded answers to his questions while pinning the green-haired boy down. But to his shock, the boy returned his expression of fury with an intense glare of his own. Had Bakugo not been so hot-headed and confident, he would have taken a step back in fear. Kaken, I earned my way into UA. Ever since that day, when you said something so horrible to me. That day, I discovered that I had the potential to be a hero. And even if you're right, even if I'm nothing without it, I'm going to use my power to become the greatest hero, one who can save everyone with a smile. And not even you can stop me. Hey! Bakugo looked up at Ida. Do you really think Deku has a quirk? Ida was flabbergasted. Of course he has a quirk. We all saw it during Mr. Aizawa's apprehension test. He outperformed everyone else. Bakugo just looked away and scowled. Was that damn nerd just hiding his quirk from me, pretending to be weak? He thinks just cause he has a flashy and powerful quirk that he's better than me. No, I'll prove that bastard wrong. Hey! You watch after the bomb. I'm going after Deku. Ida just held out his hand and said, wait. But Bakugo had already started flying away. He maneuvered through the halls, thoughts racing back to the time when Deku tried helping him, as if he were a useless child that needed help. HRRRGH. His expression worsened, and all he could think about was taking down that arrogant little Deku. They'd found each other, but before the green boy could react, there was a boom. Had Katsuki's quarry not evaded his strike, the next few minutes would have been painless and humbling. At least, that's what the blonde boy thought. Alas, he was gravely mistaken in regards to his own power in comparison to the Sentry. Staring up at his lifelong tormentor, Izuku Midoriya felt many things, afraid of confronting this titan of achievement, nervous of what would happen to Uraraka, and terrified of failing himself by not winning this encounter. So he got up, dusted himself off, and stood up to the grenade-wearing fool who was smiling like a maniac. Uraraka. She looked up at him and he put his arm out. You go take care of Ide and the bomb. I'll handle Kaken. Got it. She ran down one of the intersecting hallways in search of her other adversary. Ha! Katsuki's grin just widened with madness. You really think you can take me down? You must have a screw loose. But don't worry, I'll be sure to show you your place here. He immediately threw a right hook at his victim, only for said boy to use his momentum against him and slam him to the ground. Stop this, Kaken. You've already seen the Sentry's power, and I really don't want to hurt or cripple you. Izuku shouted with an angry expression on his face. But this just served to enrage his opponent. Like I'll let that happen. You damn nerd. Bakugo got back up to his feet and tried hitting Izuku again. Izuku tried catching it, but Bakugo blasted an explosion to create a smokescreen while he flew behind the quirkless boy. Said boy's opponent grinned. If you really want to win against me, you should use your quirk to ram into the building and kill us all. That's the only way you could hope to beat me, you useless F-cur. Katsuki blasted Izuku in the back, causing the young boy to fly face-first straight to the floor. His mask was also damaged, though the rest of his costume was more or less intact. Watching him slowly get up, Bakugo could see, through Izuku's broken mask, something that shocked him to his core. The quirkless nerd held eyes filled with deep fury and resolve. Fine, then. Izuku growled. Then, a brilliant light overtook the room, blinding Katsuki. When the blonde boy opened his eyes, Deku was replaced with an American man sporting blonde hair, blue eyes, a cheesy costume, and a wide smile. TCH. So, you finally decided to grace me with that flashy quirk of yours, huh? Well, I'll beat you anyway. The Sentry's smile never wavered. Young Katsuki, why are you so upset? This is merely a training exercise. Are you sure it's worth all this frustration? The Sentry was genuinely curious. Shut up. Stop looking down on me. You think just because you were hiding this power you could have beaten me at any time, huh? Well, even if you can throw a ball around the freaking world, I'll still beat your ass. The angry boy immediately charged forward, pummeling the Sentry with explosion after explosion, so much so that he couldn't even see his opponent in front of him. Hey, don't you think this is too much? A red-headed boy named Kirishima looked up to All Might, who was watching the screen intently. Bakugo's attacks are so unmanly here, and Midoriya can't even see in front of him. He's acting like a total dash villain? All Might asked, causing the boy to frown. Meanwhile, All Might was monitoring the battle closely. I know that Bakugo is acting out of line here, even for a villain, but my curiosity is getting the better of me. If young Midoriya really is connected to All for One, then I must see the power he possesses. So, the training battle continued on, uninterrupted. Pant. Bakugo was exhausted and sweating severely. Fortunately, his costume was designed to feed off that "have you calmed down now, young Katsuki?" The boy froze. No way. The smoke cleared. And standing where he was when the attacks first started, his smile unwavering, was the Sentry. And he didn't even look fazed by the barrage of flames he's just been acquainted with. How grk. Katsuki was speechless, his attacks did nothing to him. Even his costume looked fine. Could Deku really be better than HNO? I refuse to accept this. His quirk probably just grants him a really strong body, that's all. The poor boy didn't know about Sentry's solar abilities. All I have to do is use my ultimate attack. Then he'll fall. Hey, Deku. Kakin called out to the man in front of him, but the reply he got wasn't what he intended. Before we go any further, the Sentry held out his hand. I must clarify something. While I am young Izuku's love for heroism given form, I am technically a separate entity. We both have our own thoughts, we are just connected in mind and body. Carry on, then. Whatever. I don't care if you're freaking All Might possessing him, I'll beat you and show you where you belong under me, like everyone else. He took a moment to breathe. I'm sure you're real familiar with my quirk, right? He then gestured to the grenade gauntlets on his hands. It converts my sweat into an explosive compound that I can ignite, so it gets stronger the more I use it. But these bad boys, they store up the excess. The Sentry's smile wavered, just for a moment. Young Katsuki, I'd implore you not to use that in here. But the boy didn't heed his words, instead choosing to raise a gauntlet at him. Young Bakugo, stop this at once. All Might screamed into the boy's radio, but he was promptly shut down. He'll be fine if he can use that super speed of his to dodge. Aiming via a pin-shaped scope on the side, Katsuki aimed straight at the Sentry and pulled the pin. Boom! The giant explosion hit the Sentry point blank. Any normal person should have been incinerated. The villain team is disqualified. All Might shouted his verdict before running over to the training area, praying that the boy was still alive. As soon as Katsuki heard that, he knew he f'd up. What did I just do? There was no way for the Sentry to have survived that. No. He's not dead. He can't be. Even if he was useless, there was no reason to kill him. That would make me A.6. He couldn't have died so easily. But the young boy knew the truth, he was a murderer. And as soon as he realized that, he broke down and started sobbing. However, while Kakin was so enamored in his own grief, he didn't notice the smoke moving. Out walked the Sentry, who immediately went to Kakin's side. Young Katsuki, do not be afraid, he said as he put a hand on the boy's head. The Sentry is with you. Ha! The blonde looked up. Through his tears, he saw the person he thought he'd just killed, smiling at him, as if nothing was wrong. How? Do not be afraid, for the Sentry will always be with you. His smile never faltered, and his eyes were filled with compassion. GHH.HK. The young boy just continued to cry, overwhelmed with shame. All Might just watched the scene from the side, silently praising the Sentry for his excellent handling of Bakugo's mistake. If I hadn't given one for all to young Mirio, I'd definitely give it to you, young Midoriya. Afterwards, since the villain team was disqualified, the heroes won by default. Now then, who can tell me who the MVP for this match was? All Might had posed this question to his students that had gathered in another room. A girl named Yayorozu answered it. It was a tie between Ida and Midoriya, sir. She further elaborated. They stuck to their roles the best. Bakugo immediately discarded any semblance of cooperation in favor of a personal grudge, blinding him with rage. In addition, Uraraka immediately broke character when she ran into Ida, leading to her discovery. Midoriya hadn't known about that. Ida, on the other hand, stuck to his assigned role all throughout, while Midoriya stayed behind to face Bakugo, and even committed to a hero's duty of helping people. She omitted the part about why the Sentry needed to help Bakugo, though no one was in the dark, seeing as Ochako and Tenya had heard about it afterward. That's correct. All Might really had nothing to add. In any case, win or lose, you can always learn something. On to the next match. The rest of the matches weren't anywhere near as eventful as the first. At least, in the sense that no one was put in mortal danger of any kind. Actually, Ida and Uraraka weren't in any danger either, and the Sentry was fine anyway. So, the day really only had that one incident. Izuku had, of course, reverted back to his normal form, with no memory of what happened with the Sentry aside from everyone telling him. Man, that was awesome. You were so manly, tanking that huge explosion. I thought that was pretty reckless, but you seem way more durable than I thought, ribbit. Not very stylish, but pretty cool nonetheless. Thanks. Izuku sheepishly said. He wasn't used to any sort of praise. After the day ended, Izuku asked the Sentry about the training match. Hey, Sentry? Yes, young Izuku? I don't have any memories when we switch places. What exactly happened in the fight with Kaken? Young Katsuki was rather angry at us for being so powerful, and he immediately went on the offensive. Fortunately, his attacks didn't hurt us, but that only made him even more angry. As it so happened, his gauntlets were designed to store up his explosive sweat and fire a giant explosion when the pin was pulled. Oh yeah, I remember his costume having grenade gauntlets for arms. Guess that was what they were used for. Indeed. He shot one of them at me with the intent to I dare not say. Regardless, I was unscathed, but All Might disqualified his team immediately. Izuku was speechless. Kaken had probably tried to kill him, but the Sentry had just walked out of the explosion. That was probably what the others were referring to. Actually, Kaken had been sulking afterward, and someone had told him that he'd cried after firing his attack. Could he have gotten caught up in the heat of the moment and felt remorse right after? If so, then I need to let him know that I'm okay. So, Deku immediately set off in search of Kaken, only to be told that he'd headed home early, but Deku could still see him walking to the school gates. He raced down to him, determined to let his friend know that he was okay. He shouldn't leave because of an accident. Kaken. The blonde boy turned around. GHK, and his face shocked Izuku to his core. What do you want, you cowering F-King demigod? Come to gloat about your victory? Kaken was crying. Izuku had heard about it, but to see him still sobbing hours later. This wasn't the Kaken that he knew. Look, I get that you're upset about almost killing me, but I'm completely fine. See? Any damage that Sentry or I take won't reflect on the other, so even if he did get hurt, I'd be totally fine. Izuku had hoped that his explanation would calm Katsuki down, but if anything, he looked more upset. That's exactly the point, you idiot. My attack was so stupid. I didn't have a strategy or any sort of plan, I just blindly rushed at you and thought pure brute force would work. And it's not just you. When I watched that ice guy, or that creation girl, I realized that they would probably beat me if they put any effort into it. I totally screwed up, and I lost to you, of all people. With that damn quirk that you've been hiding all these years, what, were you just laughing at me all this time? Izuku looked to the ground before replying. Kaken, I only got these powers recently. Ha! The truth is, I was quirkless until that day. When you said what you said. Katsuki's eyes went wide with shock. No! Please no! I was on my way home from school when a guy just appeared in front of me. I think he had some sort of teleportation quirk, but regardless, he handed me a vial of golden liquid. And then he was attacked by a villain. And I ran. I could have tried to help him, but I ran. He told me to keep the vial safe, and that sludge villain might have been the one who wanted it, so maybe I did the best thing, but I hated myself. GRK. Unbeknownst to either of the boys, the world's symbol of peace and justice was standing nearby, eavesdropping in on their entire conversation. That man that young Midoriya is talking about, that's the man I dash. So, when I got home I figured that the liquid was some sort of drug that the man got attacked over. I'd heard of it before, so it seemed like a plausible explanation. At the time, I was so fixated on my failure to help him, and then I remembered what you said. Bakugo was hyperventilating at this point. All Might didn't know what it was that Bakugo said, but considering that young Midoriya was seemingly quirkless and young Bakugo's reaction, he could wager a guess. I figured if I was going to die, might as well die high. So I drank it all, but nothing happened. Then Mom called me for dinner and then it happened. I suddenly felt an intense heat inside of me, so hot I thought I was going to burst. I rushed out of my house and ran, farther and farther. I didn't know where I was going, I just needed to get away from everyone before I exploded. And then well, you've probably heard what happened at Dagoba Beach. HRK. To say the blondes were stunned would be an understatement. Everyone had heard about that. It had stumped the pros for months. To think that it was the Sentry manifesting into existence. Anyway, when I came to, I was in a dark place. The only light in there was the Sentry. Turned out that it was my own mind. And, well, you can probably figure the rest out. Izuku looked back up at Bakugo, unsure of what he was hoping for. But it wasn't his current expression that he wanted. If Izuku had seen Katsuki's face after he'd shot the Sentry with his ultimate attack, he would have said that he looked downright tame in comparison to the horror's look that was his face. So you got some experimental who knows what from a scientist and then ran from a villain, then you tried killing yourself afterward and discovered this new power? Izuku looked away. Yeah, that's about what happened. Okay. Bakugo turned back around and started walking away, slowly. If one were to look at his face, they'd see a man that had succumbed to despair and grief over his actions. No. Over his past transgressions. Catch a dash. Izuku tried calling out to his friend, but a sudden gust of wind silenced him. Fear not, because I am here. In a flash, the number one hero was standing in front of Midoriya. Even Kaken turned his head back when he heard his voice. All Might. Izuku stuttered out. Bakugo just looked even more remorseful. It didn't take a genius to figure out that he'd been listening to them. Now then, he said, turning to Bakugo, where are you off to? TCH. And why the hell do you want to know? His voice sounded as gruff as always, but he was barely holding himself together. Well, I think it's important to inquire about a student who leaves early. Don't you? For all I know, you're going to drop out of UA. Exclamation point. Izuku was stunned. Was Kaken so distraught that he was going to give up his dream of being a hero? He couldn't let that dash. As if. The blonde boy turned around, his despair slightly painted over with rage. I'm not gonna let one mistake screw me over. I've worked my entire life to get here, and I'm not about to let my own oversight drag me down. I'll surpass even you, and then, he turned to Izuku. I'll beat the Sentry. Then, there'll be no doubt that I'm the strongest. Enjoy your victory for now. You won't get to for much longer. With that, he walked off, leaving the number one hero and his new rival to just stand there and contemplate what he just said. Well, how are you feeling? All Might swiftly turned to Midoriya, being unable to respond to what Bakugo said. Oh. I'm fine, thanks. Midoriya, about that man you mentioned. The boy's eyes tensed. Was he about to get reprimanded for his unheroic actions? Probably, but he'd do his best to take it and continue on, one way or another. If he was attacked by a villain made primarily of sludge, then you don't need to feel guilty about what happened. I showed up a minute later and saved him, though he teleported away before I could assist him further. The point is, if you hadn't run, I might have had to deal with 2 casualties instead of 1, and my job couldn't have been a lot harder. From what I understand, your quirk came into existence later that day, so you wouldn't have been able to beat the villain anyway. There's no need to regret what you did. No one had ever applauded Izuku for his weakness before. He'd expected to be reprimanded, but All Might told him that he did the right thing. His actions were unheroic and most definitely cowardly, but what was he expected to do in that scenario? Physical attacks probably wouldn't have worked on him, and Izuku had no other means of attack. Maybe him running away was for the best after all. All Might told him it was the right thing to do, so maybe it wasn't wrong to run away from an opponent substantially stronger than you. He's right, young Izuku. Regrettable as it may be, there is nothing you could have done. In the end, civilians placed their lives in the hands of heroes, and All Might saved him. If you truly wish to be a hero, you must learn to continue on in spite of your failure and keep going. The civilians will feel safe knowing that there is a hero that won't stop in the face of adversity. In any case, school's ended for the day. You're free to leave, and see you tomorrow. All Might walked off after bidding Midoriya adieu. Bye, All Might, you waited too long to respond. He's already gone. Well, this was awkward. Now then, it seems like we've forgotten something rather critical. The next day, Aizawa started off the class on a serious note. What could it be? Was the question on everyone's mind when he said that. We've completely forgotten. Everyone leaned forward, anxiously awaiting his next words. To pick representatives for the class. Something so normal. I don't really care how you decide to do it, just don't wake me up, he said while getting into his sleeping bag. Oh, me. Every single person immediately suggested themselves for the position, as expected. Alright, then. The most obvious scenario here would be to VWO for someone. Ida, in his infinite wisdom, immediately proposed his solution while jettisoning up from his seat. Won't everyone just vote for themselves? But that just means that anyone who gets more than one vote will indeed be worthy of the title of class representative. What the hell? Kaminari said. We won't get anything done if we go on like this, so why not just go with Ida's idea? Thank you. Kaminari. Shut up, Aizawa muttered. Seeing as no one had any better ideas, they just decided to put it to a vote. The vice president ended up being Yaoyorozu, and the president was me. Izuku screamed out. Indeed, he'd been the one to receive the most votes, as he was the one everyone viewed as the strongest in the class. Ugh. Bakugo growled, but he held his tongue. Acting rashly wouldn't get him anywhere. Alright then, your new representatives are Yaoyorozu and Midoriya, Aizawa said. I'll. Izuku trailed off, unable to form a complete sentence. Sigh. Well, regardless, I'll do my best to uphold my position as vice president, Yaoyorozu informed the rest of the class. Seeing as their president was too nervous to address all of them while their vice president wasn't satisfied with her position, did not inspire confidence. All in all, the class reps weren't off to a great start. Hey, Deku. Over here. Uraraka waved at Izuku from her booth with Ida. Deku, a person who didn't have friends growing up, gladly sat down with them. Thanks for sitting with us, class rep. Uraraka joked. It's nothing, really. I wouldn't sit somewhere else just because I'm the class rep. Izuku said while waving his arms wildly. I was just kidding. Oh, right. In any case, it's great that you got so many people to vote for you, Ida said. Though I myself was hoping to win in spite of voting for you. Deku said. You voted for me? Well, yeah. Most of the class voted for you, me included, Uraraka commented. Sniff, you guys. Deku almost began crying intruder alert. Intruder alert. Until the alarm suddenly went off, scaring everyone. Every single student began making a mad dash towards the exit, stampeding over anyone who wasn't faster than them. And that included the trio of Midoriya, Ida, and Uraraka. Can't. Breathe. Ag. This. Isn't orderly at all. Just as Ida thought that while trapped between several students he saw something outside the window. He saw it. Just the press? The gate around the school had seemingly been broken. It looked like it had turned into dust or something. But that was beside the point, and various news stations had used this as an opportunity to get inside UA. This is absolutely. Ida was furious. To think that this entire mess was caused by something as simple as reporters, and this is how UA students of all things were reacting to it? Like animals? Midoriya. Uraraka. It's only the press. Ida screamed. But they could barely hear him over the crowd. Wait. If it's only the press, then I think I can calm them down. Deku came to the conclusion that he just needed a way to get everyone's attention. Hey, Sentry. Yes, I understand perfectly. Let us switch places so that we may calm them all down. We're counting on you. Izuku thought before his vision faded in a flash of light. Said light was so bright that anyone facing his direction had to avert their eyes due to the intensity. What the hell's happening now? The light initially served to create more chaos, but before the situation could escalate further, the Sentry made his presence known. All of you, cease this insanity. With a mighty scream, the Sentry brought all the chaos in the cafeteria to a standstill. But the chaos was replaced with trepidation and apprehension, which was made evident when someone said, "WH, who are you?" I am known as the Sentry, and alternate personality of the first year, Izuku Midoriya. His quirk manifests itself as me. But that's not important right now. What matters is you look upon yourselves and think about what's actually happening. What? Aren't you paying attention? Someone broke into UA. Yeah. What the hell are we supposed to do, stay here and get attacked? As the students started returning to their mob mind, Ida took the opportunity to aid the Sentry. What he's saying, Ida said loudly, gathering the students' undivided attention, is that you all need to pay more attention to your surroundings. Seeing the confusion still evident on their faces, Ida grew impatient. For the love of, look outside. Upon screaming, he got his desired reaction. The students looked out the windows and saw the press standing outside. And, like any person who realized that they behaved like an animal in a very serious situation, they became immensely ashamed of themselves. Now that the situation is known, I'd advise anyone who sustained any injuries during the initial stampede to come to me. I convert sunlight into energy that can be used to revitalize myself or others, so I can treat any minor injuries. However, I would advise you to seek Recovery Girl afterwards. Seeing as there was no reason to panic and that there was a capable healer in their midst, the students were all able to go back to their regularly scheduled classes without much difficulty. Meanwhile, the Sentry, or rather, Deku, had made a name for himself as a powerful soon-to-be hero, which brought him even more popularity in his class. Dude! What you did at lunch today was amazing. Nice job! Kaminari said while giving Deku a thumbs up. Yeah, that was totally awesome. Mina said. Super manly taking the helm back there. You certainly proved your capability as our class rep, Tokoyami said. Really, it was nothing. It was Ida who noticed the press. But you were the one who took charge and got everyone's attention, said classmate said. Suddenly, the door opened, and Aizawa walked in. Alright, settle down. As soon as he said that, everyone hopped to their seats. They wanted to keep discussing how cool Midoriya was, but that wasn't worth risking detention. First of all, I heard what happened during lunch. Good job on taking control of the situation. Midoriya. Oh, thank you, sir. Now then, as I'm sure you all know, someone broke our front gate and let the press in. Then you all stampeded like animals, and you would have gotten hurt if Midoriya and Sentry hadn't stepped in. Speaking of, nice assist there, Ida. Yes, sir. Ida bowed. In any case, we've determined that nothing too serious occurred, so we can still follow tomorrow's field trip. Field trip? the class was instantly abuzz with chatter. Yes. We've decided to train you all at the unforeseen simulation joint that we've made for honing your quirks. Aside from myself, you'll be supervised by All Might and Space Hero 13. 13! Uraraka exclaimed. Oh my gosh, she's my favorite hero. Oh. This is gonna be so cool. While not as ecstatic as Uraraka, the rest of the class was very much excited to go to a UA-sponsored training area. And Midoriya especially was happy to find a definitive number for the Sentry's abilities. Sure, he was still a bit startled from the scare at lunch, but it wasn't like they'd be ambushed at the USJ and the Sentry would have to fight, say, some bird monster. Right?